Good morning.
We're doing jumping jack back there. That's the reason it took us a little while to get up here.
Well, the temperature on the car today said it was 46 degrees. But I have two pieces of good news for you this morning that will make you smile and make you happy. Number one, it's the first day of summer. Yay!
It feels like it, doesn't it?
It's the first day of summer. Here's my second piece of good news. Pastor Jay hooked me up this morning and gave me a hand warmer. So I have a hand warmer slipped inside my pocket.
Let me see that for a second.
No, you'll keep it.
I'm just going to put it on my head. I have brain freeze there. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
But it's mine. He only had one.
You can have it.
So I'm not sharing.
Well, I hope you enjoy your first day at camp meeting. At least I can tell you this much. The skies were beautiful. The sunshine warms you up when you're outside. It's just that we're under the tent right now. But when you're outside, the sunshine feels wonderful. And the air feels clear and clean. That's one of the things we love about the Pacific Northwest. You guys enjoy such beautiful weather as far as the air being pure, the greenery around here. We've been to some places where it's so brown. It's sad. But you guys are spoiled in that sense, and we envy you for that.
Well, today we're going to talk about disconnecting in order to connect. You know, as we did research all around our division, we asked families, what is your number one challenge as a family in today's world? And from every one of our territories in the North American division, the answer came back the same. Our number one challenge in today's world is parenting. Parenting our kids is not the same as it used to be. Well, then we took that one step further and said, okay, but when it comes to parenting, what is the number one challenge specifically with parenting? And the answer came back, dealing with technology. How do we get our kids to disconnect in order to connect with them?
And we shouldn't just say our kids, because I think we all have become somewhat attached
That's
to
right.
our electronic equipment, don't we? We all seem to want to use it at one time or another. In fact, sometimes we play a little game, Pam and I, and that we are sitting next to each other there in the couch at home, and I pick up my phone and send her a text message to say, hey, what are you doing? And then she responds back, I'm sitting next to you. Yeah. So it's a game sometimes, but we learned a number of years ago when our girls were in college that they prefer if we texted them because they could answer any time. If they were in a classroom, if they were taking a class, we would send them a text message and they would respond. So they said, don't call us, just text us. So now we text each other very regularly. I mean, sometimes several times during the day. If they don't respond immediately, that's fine. But if they're busy, if they're in a classroom situation, our daughter is a teacher, our older daughter is a teacher, they just send a text message to say, I'll talk to you later or something like that. So in a way, it's good. It's just when we become so dependent on it that we don't look at each other and use words to talk to each other. That's our concern.
Look at the scriptural principle we have for today. Psalm 46, verse 10 says, be still and know that I am God. If you think of words that describe today's generation, you probably wouldn't say still, would you? It seems that in the busyness of life today, we have forgotten what it means to be still, to just stop, to meditate, to contemplate, to pray. Be still and know that I am God.
So go back a few years to your childhood. How did you communicate with your parents when you were growing up? What did you do?
We talked. Imagine that.
And in fact, you even did that with your friends. How many of you, I know I'm not the only one, how many of you use two cans with a string?
Wow, honey, you're really going back.
Well, we used to string, of course, often we didn't really understand the other person too well, but it sort of sounded like talk. That was a primitive form of telephone communication, I guess.
Or we use the telephone. Not only that, how many of you remember party lines on the telephone? You not only could talk to your friends, you knew what all your neighbors were doing. I know you did. I know you picked up that phone sometimes and listened. Oh, not that I ever did that. But
That was my first experience ever with a party line when I went to see her meet her parents in her home in Virginia. I think we told you I was born and raised in Colombia, South America, so coming to the States, I had to learn a number of things that I never experienced in my homeland. Some people say, boy, coming from Colombia, it must have been culture shock for you. And I said, yeah, because I never saw an outhouse in my home in Colombia, but I did in Virginia. It's the first time I ever saw an outhouse was in Virginia.
yeah, I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. And I remember when Claudio first came to my home and I was introducing him to my family, we went to the home of my grandparents. And my grandparents lived on what was considered Walton's Mountain. You know the story? The TV show Walton's Mountain? That's home for me, the real Walton's Mountain. It was about a real place, and that's home for me where I grew up. Well, I remember when Claudia went there and we were sitting in my grandmother's home, and I was sitting there thinking, Lord, please help Claudio not to have to go to the bathroom. Sure enough, he asked my grandmother, he said, may I use your restroom? Where's the bathroom? And my grandmother said, God bless her heart, she said, oh, you just right there through the door. And he went out the door and he was outside.
I thought I had taken the wrong door. It's like,
so he turned around and looked at me and looked at my grandmother, and my grandmother said, it's there, just up the hill. Up the hill to the outhouse. Yeah. That was home for me.
That was culture shock. And that party line, again, at our house, I had to make a phone call and picked it up, and I heard people talking, and I hung up, and I said, something's wrong with your phone. And she said, once someone's already talking. She said, nah, just wait a little while, they'll hang up. Well, sometimes those little whiles took a long time. So I finally gave up. No more calling on that party line.
But we don't have to worry about party lines today. And the truth is, we really don't talk on the phone a lot today. If you do surveys, you will find out you're more apt to text or to send some other message, Instagram, than you are to talk on the telephone today.
So with all the technology and as fast as everyone is moving nowadays, how do we get our kids to slow down and be still, to listen for a little while, to be willing to talk? I don't know if you've ever tried to talk to a teenager. So how was your day? Fine? Anything new? No? Any homework? Yep. But I think that's because we're used to, and they're used to, the quick, short answer, so many characters, so many words that you have to use. We talked to a group of parents so they would tell us what kinds of challenges they face, and this is what they shared with us.
So I don't know about you guys, but these days, my goodness, phones, tablets, all devices, children are using them, teenagers are really into them. So many apps that they're getting into.
I think our teenagers they've grown up with this device, with everything at their fingertips, but they're also using these games that are out there as an escape.
We've got to remember too, computers, we like them because they're so intelligent, and they are programmed for the purpose of keeping our attention more and more and more. And so they're literally designed to trick or manipulate our kids and us into staying longer. And they'll use anything they can to keep those kids' attention, including things like pornography or each other So we end up using people rather than communicating with
Right.
them.
And you know, the thing is that as parents, we have to be aware of the type of apps that are out there. Like, for instance, the big one right now with teenagers is Snapchat, right?
Yeah.
Snapchat, where they can Snapchat with a friend, and in 10 seconds or so, it's gone, it's deleted. So you're seeing a lot of teenagers nowadays, what they're doing is that they're taking inappropriate pictures of themselves and sending it to this person. But their inexperience doesn't let them understand that you can take a screenshot out of anything and then it's out there forever. Right.
So my question is, as a parent, how much of privacy I'm going to give my teenager,
Yeah.
right? Before we know that they're getting into things like this. I think it's very challenging for us to create a line of trust, right? But at the same time, we want to find a way that we keep them safe. Mm-hmm. So, where do we draw that line?
Very good question. How do we give our kids the freedom to learn and to talk and to explore, but at the same time protect them? Every so often we hear a story of some young person who ran away with an adult that they met online, young girl that left with a person they met online or she met online, and now they're looking for her. And it's scary to think that online they could have all these friends who are not really looking to be their friends, they're looking to harm them.
Well, let's look at the number one rule, the number one thing as adults that we can do: model appropriate online behavior. You see, that is so important. How often do we tell our children, if you're parents here today, we have parents who tell their children, oh, I'm sorry, you can't watch that movie because that movie's not appropriate for someone your age. But then we put them to bed and we watch it. You think they don't know? Or we tell our young people how dangerous it is to text and drive. And then they see us doing it. You see, it's important for us to model the behavior. We tell our young people, you can't talk on your phone at the dinner table. But then the phone rings and we say, oh, it's my boss, I have to answer it. You see, we excuse our online behavior, but we disallow it from our children. Remember what we said yesterday. It is more important what you do than what you say. You can say one thing, but if your actions negate what you're saying, our young adults are looking at your actions more than they're looking at what you tell them. So model appropriate behavior.
I remember, about 15 years ago, no, it couldn't have been, more like 10 years ago, I was working with a couple in my office. He's a veterinary doctor, and they were having marital difficulties, and so they came to my office. We were talking about what was going on, and in the middle of the conversation of the session, his phone rang, and he picked up the phone and answered. And I was looking at him like, is this for real? This is an actual counseling session, and you're going to interrupt it to answer your phone. So I waited patiently until he finished the conversation, and I said to him, did you just realize what you did? And he said, well, it was an emergency. Somebody needed me. I said, I understand that, but this is a professional session. But what really worries me is that what you do with your with your family, and especially with your wife? Think about that. If you answer the phone every time it rings, you're telling your family, you're telling your spouse, you're telling your kids, whoever's calling is more important than you. So don't become a slave to the phone. You don't have to answer every time. I find it interesting how often now in church the phone rings. If you're a physician who happens to be on call, in fact, if I'm calling my doctor because I'm dying, of course I shouldn't even be calling my doctor, I should be calling 911. But if I'm calling my doctor, it's important that I talk to him or her. I'd appreciate it if they answer, but I don't know that all of us need to answer the phone every time it rings. So we're in church, and suddenly the phone rings, and immediately we walk out. It's important. Is it really that urgent? Is it really that important? But the point here then is if we answer the phone every time it rings, we're telling those that we're talking to, that we're spending time with, whoever's calling is more important than you. Is that the message that you want to give your family or those closest to you?
Look at this picture. This picture is so important about modeling appropriate online behavior. You see the dad there? The dad there with this small infant. And look what the infant is doing. Being mesmerized by the lights and the colors and the movement that's on the screen.
That's good parenting right there.
Mm-hmm. We need to be so careful as parents. The National Academy says of Pediatrics says that children under the age of 2 should have 0 screen time. 0. And yet parents today, what we're doing, we're using this as our babysitter. The number one babysitter. It certainly does keep them busy and keep them entertained, but in the process, we're doing so much damage at a very, very early age.
So the American Academy of Pediatrics has been saying that for the last several years. This year, the World Health Organization reaffirmed that children under the age of 2 should have no screen time. And by that we mean no cell phone, no computer, no tablet, no television. Of course, you might be thinking, oh, does that mean I don't get to watch TV because the kids are at home? Well, take advantage of that opportunity to spend time with them. It would be more profitable for them. Read to them. Read the Bible to them. Read the Bible stories to them. There's so much good literature out there. And in fact, the studies have shown that when kids are read to, they do better educationally. And when the dads read to the kids, they do even better than when moms read to the kids. Now, it doesn't mean that your role is not important, ladies. It is critically important. But that's what the research shows, that when dads read to their kids, their literacy development is actually higher or better than when only mom reads to the kids.
The next piece of research we're going to share with you is so startling because if you ask parents, where is the most dangerous place your child could go? Well, some parents may say, well, the most dangerous place they could go maybe is to a bar or to a club, and they'll give you a variety of places. As researchers looked at this and looked at the trends, they have now concluded in 2019, the most dangerous place your child can go today is online. Online. And guess what? They don't even have to leave home to do that. They go online sitting right beside you, sitting in their own homes, and that's the most dangerous place in the world they could be. But as parents, how do we deal with this? How do we deal when our child says to us or a young person says to us, you can't invade my privacy? I have a right for my privacy, and yet parents are saying, but I also have a responsibility for your safety. How do we balance this? How do we balance a child's desire for privacy and a parent's desire for safety?
And before we go there, we have another picture that we want to show you. It's not one, it's kind of, excuse me, it's kind of funny, sad. It's very tragic in a way. And we put it there because it's the reality of today. A little girl who prays, dear God, please send clothes to those poor ladies on Daddy's computer. Mm-hmm. Research shows that the first accidental exposure of pornography for children is about the age of 5. And we say accidental because they happen to walk in Daddy's computer and Mom's computer as well. And actually, the pornography is most often accessed by cell phone, not really by computers anyways. And by the age of 8, some boys are already addicted to pornography, age 8. So we're talking about something that's extremely serious, something that's happening in our homes and in our churches.
So look at this, privacy versus safety. When we give our teens the privacy they need, they become more independent, which help build their self-confidence. At the same time, there must be a balance between knowing what your teen is doing, trusting your teen to have some private matters, and knowing when to step in. Remember, you're still the parent. Okay, that's the number one thing for us to remember. When we think about balancing privacy with safety, trust your instincts, mom and dad. Trust your instincts. Even if you think something may be wrong, if you're wondering if they're getting into something that's inappropriate, trust your instincts and remember, God has called you to be their parent. And you cannot listen to the voices saying, I have a need for my privacy. Understanding that your intervention may save them from a child predator or from some other dangerous activity that they're already engaged in online.
According to research, kids are more concerned with risk to their own reputation than about anything else. And of course, that in and of itself is great cause for alarm. That is the biggest concern. Their image, what people think about them. And so sometimes they end up doing or saying things that they don't feel comfortable with just in order to maintain that reputation intact.
Sometimes as we travel all around the world and I spend so much time sitting in airports, I just people watch. And you sit there and you watch, especially girls, especially teenage and young adult girls doing selfies. I'm sure you've seen it. They'll hold up the phone and do a selfie, and then they'll look at it. They'll do another one because it's not good enough. It doesn't make them look good enough. And 50 pictures later, maybe they finally have a picture they're happy with. Why? Because of this thing right here. Our young people today are more concerned with how they look online. Is it making me look good? You know, I have to be in the best light. And so very often, even the posts online, it's not a reflection of reality that's going on in their life. It's a reflection of life through rose-colored glasses because I have to look good. I have to appear good before my friends. So there again, what do? They post first and think later because their brain is not fully developed. Do you know that our brains do not fully develop until at least the age of 26? 26 years old. So imagine all these young people, they'll post something online and don't even think of the consequences. They post where they are, what they're doing, who they're with, or they'll post pictures of them in scantily covered clothing, and they don't think of the consequences. Post first, make sure I look good, maybe I'll think about it later. As adults, we think first about what we're posting. Many times we'll even write things and delete it and decide not to post it. You know, we think first and then act. But young people, especially if they're under the age of 26, they're going to act first and think later. So when it comes to online behavior, this is so risky and this is so dangerous. That's why the number one place for our young people to be today, dangerous place, online.
So let's talk about some safety, online safety. And I think those are on your outline. You did receive an outline this morning, right? Anyone does not have one? Because we have more available. Okay. So number one, keep your child's profile private. You know, the Facebook was open only for college-age kids for a while. Then they opened it to the whole world. But then they said, let's make sure that it's only up to a certain or down to a certain age. But now they said, well, it's open to a lot more. Well, if you choose to allow your kids to have a Facebook page, make sure that they keep their profile private. It should only be for a number of people that you have access to. It should not be something that only they know and can manage, not until they're 18 years old anyways, as far as I'm concerned.
Number two, we need to make sure our young people are not posting phone numbers, home address, the name of their school, that private information that will give a predator the ability to actually come to their school or their home and find them. If you think this is not a problem, all you have to do is read or listen to the news. How many stories have we heard of young girls falling into the hands of predators or someone convincing them, climb out your window, climb out your bedroom window. I'm out here waiting for you, promising them a better life, promising them, so many riches and a life of ease, and I'll take care of you, and I love you. Day after day, we hear stories of this in the news because young people are posting inappropriate things. So there again, as parents, you're the parent, make it your business. If you are allowing your child online, notice what they're posting.
Only allow them to publish photos and videos that don't jeopardize their safety or their integrity. Remember that once it's out there for the whole world to see. And it will be out there for as long as they live. Who knows if 5, 10 years from now, as they're looking at their first employment, someone could pull one of those pictures and say, is this what you were doing? And so you have to be careful. For the last 30 plus years, I've been a volunteer police chaplain in several agencies around the country. Right now with Prince George's County Police Department in Maryland, which is outside Washington, D.C., and also with a government agency. And that particular agency investigates child pornography at the producer level. They go after those that produce pornography. And when I talk to the investigators and the things that they have to do, it's amazing how these people target innocent children that have no interest in getting involved in pornography. They go to Facebook and look for pictures of kids in bathing suits at the family picnic. But they somehow try to track them and misuse those pictures for their own benefit. They can Photoshop the bathing suits off and then sell them as pornography. It's amazing what these people do. So be careful how much is put out there to make sure that they don't jeopardize their safety and integrity.
And also be very wary, listen to me, even of internet sites or games that you think are safe. I'll give you a prime example. There's a YouTube channel for children. It promotes itself specifically for children, has children-appropriate content, and so we've talked to parents who think it's safe for my child to go there. I don't have to worry that nothing inappropriate is going to show up on YouTube for kids. Well, guess what? Just this week, I heard that of a mother she had allowed her 9-year-old daughter, she thought she had taken precaution, and she said, okay, you can watch YouTube for kids. So, child had been watching that. She found out that perpetrators have hacked the YouTube channel for kids, and they have gone in through a back door, and guess what? Our kids know the certain buttons to click, even in YouTube for kids, and the certain channels to go to where they can view child pornography. Our kids are looking at child pornography on YouTube for kids. And so for over a year, she found out her 9-year-old daughter had been addicted to pornography through the YouTube for Kids channel. So even sites that we think are okay may not be okay. We need to closely monitor online activity of our children.
Make sure they choose strong password. For you Adventists, don't use 1844 anymore. Seems like every Adventist, that would be a good number to remember, 1844. Don't use those things that are too logical, too easy to figure out, your birthdays, your names, your pet. Sometimes it's better to come up with a phrase. It's cloudy outside, X1C56 or something like that. Something that's not easy to figure out.
Number 5, our kids are accepting friend requests from people they don't even know. If you look at their list of contacts, their list of friends on Facebook, the people they're following on Instagram, the people they're tweeting to on Twitter, you'll find out, I don't even know these people. Who are these people? Anyone can ask to be their friend, and they just click accept from all these strangers, and one of them could very well be a predator.
And the last one on this list, keep an open dialogue with your children. If they ask you or if they tell you something that may sound a little shocking to you, don't appear shocked. Just ask them more questions. Have you been getting any messages from someone that you don't know? Anything that you'd like to tell me? Just keep that line of communication open. Sometimes they drop a hint to see what your reaction might be. And again, if you sound shocked, that may be the last time. Or if you chastise them immediately, you shouldn't be doing that. That's the last time that they will feel comfortable sharing with you any of that information. Research revealed that 100% of the teens surveyed owned a smartphone, and most owned a variety of other devices, an iPad or a tablet of sorts. In fact, it's amazing sometimes when I see people, even young people, with 2 and 3 cell phones. Now, I understand some people have a personal phone and then they have a work phone, but I know of people that don't have a work phone, they just carry 2 different phones for whatever reason. I don't understand that.
Look at this one. Researchers found out that children were spending at least 6 hours a day on their phones. Now, I'm not talking about, this is not even counting computers and iPads and, video games, that stuff. This is just on their phone. Because there's a tracker on your phone that will actually record how many hours a day you have it open. For children, 6 hours on their phone. Think about that.
Well, think about yourselves, how much time you spend on your own phones. Most reported additional time in front of television sets and gaming consoles. So not only the time spent in front of the cell phone, but then sometimes in front of the TV with their cell phone, and also on game consoles, Xbox or PlayStation or whatever it may be. On average, they had 11 hours of screen time a day. If they go to school for, let's say, 6 to 8 hours a day, that means they're spending more time in front of the screen than they do in front of at school. And at school, sometimes they have to sit in front of the computer to do some of their homework. So imagine just the amount of time. Children are on technological devices in and out of school and all hours of day and night, sometimes in the middle of the night because someone sends a text message or they get an update or whatever, so they wake up and get on the screen for a little while. No wonder they're so tired.
In fact, one of the worst things we can do is allow technology in our children's bedrooms. So think about that. Those of you who have children, grandchildren, it shouldn't be allowed in the bedrooms because we put them to bed into bed at night, and most of the time after we're gone, they will pick up that phone. Or for many young people today, they even have television or laptop computers in their room. So let's remove all technology from the bedroom. So when they go to bed at night, we don't have to worry or even think that they're increasing that time on the screen when they're supposed to be sleeping.
But they have to do homework. Well, that's okay. You can have the computer on a public space of the house. That's the best place to have it. Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting cartoon or comic strip that came to us. Children grow up so fast nowadays, the baby just text messaged me for a fresh bottle of milk. We're getting to that point anyways. Now, some of us, I wouldn't say some of them, I said some of us might have a cyber addiction. We might be addicted to cyber or to technological devices. Here's some ideas. If internet is more important than time with family, friends, or hobbies.
Think about things that, maybe things that you enjoyed when you were younger. that you no longer do? Are you replacing those things with times on technology? By looking at the TV, by staying on your phone, by being on your computer or iPad? What about with friends? Have we lost contact with other family members or other friends because we're spending so much time on our technology devices? So that's something, like my husband said, not just to think about for children, because remember, the number one thing we can do to curb this internet use or screen time use in young people is to look in the mirror first. So think about that. Has internet replaced, or screen time replaced, time that you used to spend with family, friends, or do other hobbies?
I think our clicker here froze. Let's see. Oh, there we go. When grades are negatively impacted, you see you have a good student whose grades suddenly begin to plunge. Maybe it's because they're spending too much time with technology. Maybe they have not been sleeping enough. You can tell that they are tired all the time.
Meeting strangers online. Again, another sign you're just spending too much time online and going into that danger zone.
Unhealthy eating patterns or high intake of caffeine to stay awake. Of course, now they can have caffeine in so many different ways. You don't have to drink coffee. You can have some of those quick energy drinks, which basically is what it is, caffeine anyway. So they're consuming a lot of caffeine. That might be a sign that they are addicted to technology. Experiencing anxiety when away from the internet. Have you ever left your cell phone at home and you've driven away and a few minutes later you realize and you sort of panic? You know, it's interesting. When we didn't have cell phones, well, we just didn't worry about those things. Now it's almost like, well, what if I get in an accident? What if I get a flat tire? What if I run out of gas? You know, all kinds of things that if we had those things happen before, we just dealt with it. But now we get almost panicky if we don't have the cell phone next to us.
Neglect of appearance or hygiene. This is a key sign. If you read some of the statistics for people who are really into gaming, there are really some scary things happening out there. People who are addicted to online gaming, they cannot leave the computer. Because if I leave the computer, I might lose the game. Somebody might come and kill me in this game or attack me in this game. So they are finding adults who get this are actually wearing adult diapers, sitting in front of the screen, playing these games because I can't get up and go to the bathroom. If I get up and go to the bathroom, I will lose this game. So there again, a neglect in appearance and hygiene. I don't have time to sit down at the table and eat properly. I'm not even drinking enough water, but I have to drink a lot of caffeine to stay awake. All of those are signs that possible cyber addiction is happening and intervention is needed. Professional intervention is needed.
If you're missing money or if you see an increased online spending for websites, games, and other internet purchases, there might be an addiction there too. And by the way, you may have an internet shopping addiction, you know, where you have to be going to that bargain website or the big one that has a headquarters in Seattle. You know, you have to order something. It's so you almost look forward to seeing that box arrive in the mail next day, and when you realize you have all kinds of things at home that you probably didn't need. Here are a couple of comics that came to us as well. But you told me to go outside and play. Well, yeah, but he took his technological device out there to play, not play ball or play climbing trees.
Yeah, so look at all the kids there with a cell phone in their hands, and he texts, Susie, you're it. Instead, you know, that's how we play tag these days. Let's play phone tag.
Got 5 minutes here.
So look at this next comment. We ask ourselves why. Why is this happening? Why are our kids and our young people, and even us, let's be real, why are we spending so much time on the screen? Look at this quote from a 16-year-old. She says, "My favorite app is Twitter because I'm the kind of person who needs to get out my thoughts. And Twitter may be like shouting into the void." This next part is what's so important. "At least I am heard and validated by my peers." That is the number one reason why our kids are online today. Because somebody is listening. Somebody is listening. I can post something and immediately somebody will click like or make a comment. But maybe if I go tell my mom and dad, maybe they're too busy. I need to be heard and I need to be validated. So kids need to be heard. And here's the question. Are we listening? Are we listening as adults?
So we're going to run through this here quickly because we're running out of time. Tips for timing communicating. Keep it neutral. Don't become accusatory. Ask questions. In fact, ask lots of questions and then listen carefully. Utilize your meal times. We talked about that briefly yesterday. Take advantage of the meal times. Set all technology aside and actually talk.
Number 3, ask questions, but don't ask questions that are one-word answers. How was your day? Fine. Instead, maybe I can ask, tell me about your day. Tell me about the most exciting thing that happened today. See, they can't answer that with a yes or no. They have to explain. So, open-ended questions.
Car talk, again, take advantage of the time that you're riding in the car. And nighttime talk, at night, again, don't just wait till the last minute to turn the cell phone off. Turn it off way ahead of time and then spend time talking. Commercial time, even if you're watching some kind of program, when the commercials come on, then mute it and have the opportunity to talk about what you just saw. If you're watching the news, for instance, what do you think about that story?
Here's some more practical tips. Number 1, start soft. Do you know the first 3 minutes of my conversation is going to determine how it ends? So even if, as husband and wife, if we're talking and I feel myself getting angry or something, if I stop and realize the first words out of my mouth will determine the outcome of this conversation. That's really a powerful thing to remind yourself of. What I say next will determine the outcome of this conversation, and it's the same thing with kids.
We're going to leave that list there for you to write it down. And there are a few things that you're going to have to leave with blanks on. And we're more than happy to share those with you later, but the time has come to an end. So why don't you have prayer?
Okay, well, we want to invite you to join us at 9:30 over in the ad building. We're actually going to be talking about a story from the Bible today and learning some marriage concepts from it. So join us at 9:30 over in the ad building at 9:30, and we'll talk about marriage today. Let's pray. Dear Father, thank you for this day. We ask your blessings on us as we go about our schedule at camp meeting. We pray for the warmth of the sun to come through. We thank you for the opportunity to get away from the busyness of life and be here and reconnect with you on this campground. In your name we pray. Amen. Blessings to you today.